How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right, man. It
Good.
hasn't shown up on your Facebook yet that I'm seeing.
Yeah. I have a second monitor over here that I keep track of the chat and stuff, although the app does show us chat.
Hey, there we go. We're up.
You got to it faster than I did. What the heck?
Just spamming refresh.
There we are. There we are. We're on. Hi, everybody. Bobby, you have a cup of tea?
I do have a cup of tea.
What kind of tea are you drinking?
Lemon ginger by Yogi.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I've got a black tea. It's called Tole tea. It's from Cameroon.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Cheers, man.
So here we are. Jason Jasperson found you. That's my brother, Jason. He's awesome.
Hey.
So, Bobby, let's take just a second to kind of introduce ourselves. So people get to know who we are a little bit. I'm Dan Jasperson. I am a magician and marketer and dad, and Bobby and I both live in Cheyenne, Wyoming. We both perform a lot out here, and it's nice to be able to sit down and chat with another working pro. And Bobby, go ahead. Let's hear about you just for a second.
Yeah. So I'm Bobby Phillipps, also here in Cheyenne. I'm a gigging musician. I play the Crown Bar on Fridays when they're open. Clearly, they haven't been open for a while. I also do parties, weddings, that sort of thing. And on the side, I mix and help record other people's music, both here in town and abroad now, at least within the continental U.S. still. But yeah. That's kind of me. I do music.
I do music. Hence your website. You just launched a new website.
I did. I've got Bobby does music on pretty much for the .com and all the major social media platforms.
Fun. How long have you been in music, man? Like, is this something that you've been doing since you were like 2 days old?
So my parents always had music playing around the house, but nobody in my family, as far as I'm aware, was a musician. Maybe on the extended side, but my parents weren't musicians. But mom and dad were big concert goers. They had huge vinyl and CD and tape collections. We just had music, growing up. I picked up the guitar towards the end of my 12th year. I'm 31 now, so I've been playing for almost 20 years. Started off just playing guitar, and that, turned into being in a couple high school bands and a couple bands in my adult life. And now I'm just a solo musician and helping other people do their music.
Early on, when you were first starting to play with bands and stuff, did you gravitate towards a certain genre style of music?
I mean, yeah, I'd say so. Like rock and heavy metal was kind of my go-to then. I was in a band called Steel March from about 2008 to 2014, I think was. So 6 years, I think that is. And we were kind of a hard rock, heavy metal band. We played Van Halen, Metallica, Pantera, and then some classic rock stuff too.
So what is in a second here? I'm going to ask you to play a song to kind of kick us off and let people join up, and just give you the mic for a little bit here. But I want to talk about your evolution towards like where you are now a little bit too. There's a rack of guitars behind you, and so another part of this interview, we're going to talk about your studio and some of the kind of take a tour of your studio a little bit and talk us through some of the stuff you have in there and some of the things that you do with it. And then we'll probably play another song, and we might do a magic trick here or there, and we're going to talk creativity and all kinds of stuff.
Nice.
So, you got a song ready for us?
I do. Yeah, I do.
Fun. All right. I'm going to switch up the thing here.
Grab this because it's gratifying to have a little echo on there. So I guess to lead into that, then the heavy metal hard rock thing is still kind of in my blood, but I've definitely branched out to more blues rock stuff, some singer-songwriter type stuff. I'm pretty all over the map these days. I'll do a cover song first just to warm up. I've been run down, I've been lied to, And I don't know why. Let that mean woman make me a fool. She took all my money and wrecked my new car. Now she's with one of my good time buddies. They're drinking at some crosstown bar. Sometimes I feel like I've been tied to the whipping post. Tied to the whipping post. Tied to the whipping post. Good Lord, it feels like I'm dying. Ooh, my friends tell me that I've been such a fool, and I have to stand by and take it, baby, oh, for loving you. Drown myself in sorrow when I look at what you've done. Nothing seems to change. Bad times stay the same. I can't run. Sometimes I feel like I've been tied to the whipping post. Tied to the whipping post. Tied to the whipping post. Good Lord, it feels like I'm dying. Ooh, like I'm dying.
I love it.
There you go.
I love it. You know, I posted earlier today about this. Yeah.
Oops.
About this live talk, and I commented that you and I have very rarely seen each other perform.
That's a fact.
Like, we live in town, we're friends, we see each other at your day job a little bit. Mm-hmm. But like, I invite you out, I say, hey, I've got a performance on Friday night, and you're like, I can't. I've
got my own. That happens all the time. Let me turn this echo off.
Got my own gig. Yep. You know, so let's talk about gigging for just a second here and mm-hmm. what that's like. And you know, you're one of those guys who's out there every Friday night and then some, mm-hmm. playing at bars. You do a few weddings a year. You do other types of live events. Talk to us a little bit about your live performance schedule. So, not so much right now, of course, because we're all shut down on everything. But you know, normally,
funny thing, the day before the governor issued the shutdown back in, what was that, mid-March, I had met with a couple I was going to play a wedding for 2 weeks after that. Was originally scheduled. We had that kind of talk of, you know, what do we do if this goes down? And, you know, there was a lot of, I don't think it's gonna, you know, New York is shut down, Italy's shut down, but I think we're going to be okay. And lo and behold, the next day we had to cancel it, or postpone it, I should say. They are still getting married. But yeah, so I've been, let's see here. This started back with my old band, Steel March. I was playing in a couple of bars a couple months before I turned 21. And kind of started with that for a few years. About the time I was 23, I started playing at the Crown Bar as a solo thing. I got asked to play as kind of happy hour entertainment and just kind of carry people past happy hour, you know, when the drinks were no longer $1 off. That was 8 years ago. And I just built up a live show from there. And now I've got some, I think last I checked, 10 or 11 hours of music in my head. Primarily cover songs. The goal there isn't so much to promote myself as it is to help the bar make money, help myself make money. But I do play a couple originals in that set as well. So that started with that, playing every Friday night for the last 8 years at the Crown Bar, with, you know, a few exceptions. I take off for, you know, I got married, my honeymoon, and, you know, family events, that sort of thing. And then playing at the bar did give me some exposure to start playing some private parties and weddings. So I've been booked for those every now and then. I mean, I do probably on average 2 weddings a year, so not that much, but 2 weddings a year and maybe 3 to 5 private parties, anything from backyard barbecues to corporate parties. I've got a gig coming up this winter for a local real estate agency for a Christmas party. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So awesome. Just a little bit of everywhere.
So on a normal Friday night at the Crown, like how long are you playing?
So that actually recently changed right before everything got shut down. I was playing from 6 to 9 or 6 to 10 scheduled, and then I would sometimes stay a little bit later if there were people hanging out, having fun and drinking. Everybody's making money. Everybody's having a good time. So I would extend that. Sometimes I'd play from 6 to midnight with maybe 1 or 2 breaks in there. And then we recently shifted my schedule, so now I'm actually 8 to midnight. We're catching some people who leave the Metropolitan just up the street from us. And so we moved that to try to catch some of them. So
some of the later night crowd.
Yeah, 8 to midnight is my scheduled. 8 to 1 at the latest.
Sure. So let's can we talk nerdy stuff for just a second here?
Please, all for it.
Let's talk some nerdy stuff. You have first off, I love it. Your wife is out of town at the moment. She's like sequestered at a lake house.
Yep, out in the middle of nowhere. Out in the middle of nowhere.
Seems safe. Except for all of the horror movie stuff, like all of that still might happen. She'll be fine. So you've got a room full of gear and gadgets and not so much gear and gadgets, but tools, right? Yep. I think that's how you look at them, as tools that can do all sorts of things. And some of them are used for live performing. Some are used more for the behind the scenes production stuff. Would you give us a tour of some of your favorites and how you use them?
Yeah. So what you do see back here is a rack of guitars. These are actually not the favorites, the ones hanging on the wall. Although really quick, this one, that is my live 12-string. And then right below it, the red one is the live 6-string. So these two are the ones I bring out every Friday. I'm trying to do this on the camera here. And then the rest of these are, they're in various different tunings. They have different sounds to them. So like this is an 8-string guitar, which is kind of ridiculous. Let me grab that really quick, actually. That one's fun. Bonk. So it's a standard guitar with 2 extra strings, effectively. The neck is ginormous. It's got 2 lower strings than what would normally. And I don't know, this one's just for fun. I wouldn't even call this a tool. This one's definitely just for goofing off.
It's a toy.
It's a toy. Let me hang this back up and then I'll give you some of the more, like the ones I use on a daily basis. They're actually right next to me here.
Sure.
And I don't know if it's, okay. So this black and white one here really quick, that was my very first guitar when I was 13. My parents bought me that for my birthday. As far as the ones I play and use on a regular basis, other than those 2 live ones, this one is my main electric guitar. And you can see it is well loved and well played, worn through all over the place. I play this one every day. I've had it for about 10 years. And it's definitely my go-to for writing electric. I just like the way it sounds, the way it feels. It just feels like home. Let's see. I have my main acoustic, which you just heard me play. This is what I use in the studio. It has no electronics whatsoever, so I can't take it live. And that kind of helps me keep it at home. It's sort of a mental thing. But it sounds great. It's just a guitar.
Yeah. Sounds great.
I love it.
I love it.
Let's see. I've got a bass over here. My main recording bass. I just bought this last year. It's a Yamaha 5-string, and again, like all of these things are tools depending on what I need. So there's different tunings, there's different sounds. Some sound lower, some sound higher, some sound thinner or bigger or smaller. It's all what I need. To my left here, I've got, let me move the camera, and it's a little messy over here, so don't mind that. But 2 pianos. This one's actually my wife's, and she has let me have it in the studio effectively. I don't play piano particularly well, but I'm using it more than she is, and she can still come in and use it anytime she wants. And then this one was my brother's, so I've got that hooked up as well. And they just have 2 different feels. This one's really light and snappy. This one's feels much more like an actual piano. Over let's just grab the mic here. Or the camera, excuse me. I got my pedals down here. These just give different sounds of, change the electric guitar to make it sound like what I want it to. And I've got another one for the bass here, the main amplifier I use for recording here. And there's some other bits and bobs for like workflow stuff that I won't go too in depth on, but those are the main sound makers around here.
Are you able to give us a demo on a couple of those, the pedals and all that kind of stuff? Like,
yeah, let me rig up the sound thing really quick here. I think I can do that.
And talk us through what you're doing as you're doing it, sort of.
Yeah. I
think that's fun.
Turn on an amp here.
Because like I was saying, this is one of those topics that I know nothing about. I've got a wall full of magic books behind me, and I've got decks of cards like crazy over this shoulder, and I know my way around magic. But when it comes to music,
let's see. Is that coming in okay? Is that too loud?
I think it sounds good.
Cool. So we will start. So my amplifier that I showed you, that gives me everything from a kind of a nice, very clean, very pristine. I've got a guitar in my hand, by the way. Pull that down here. So. If you don't fat finger it. And then all the way, and this is without any of those pedals that I showed you. All of those are off right now, but that can get me up to here. And then all the way up to your heavy metal fare. Well, that's not right. Something else is on here.
So what are you doing that you're changing right now?
There's a setting on the front of the amp that changes the style of the amp. There it is. So it goes from solid, which is solid state as opposed to tube, if you're familiar with electronics at all, which is a very clean. This one is more like a Fender amplifier, something you hear maybe John Mayer or Stevie Ray Vaughan play. Turn that up there. Next setting up is called Crunch, which is kind of a 70s rock sort of thing. And then there's Lead, which goes into an 80s rock thing. And then Modern, which is kind of a Eddie Van Halen type thing. And that's just the amplifier. That's my core sound right there, depending on what I want. So let's see here. One pedal I call the Make Angry. It's great for heavy metal stuff. So there's in heavy metal, you'll hear a lot of that palm mute sound. This, if you hit this pedal, it makes it sound a little bit more aggressive. I don't know how well that's coming over the.
It's coming. I think it's coming over all right. If you hear it on chat, somebody chat us and let us know how it sounds. Also, quick break. Quick, hold on. So you have a major compliment on your majestic new facial hair from Ashley.
Yeah, thanks, Ashley.
He also is asking for Freebird, which I'm going to let you handle that. How you handle that?
I've actually never played that.
Never played that. That's amazing.
No.
I love it.
That's a funny story, actually. I used to play at the Sweet Bistro before they shut down. And one night I was down there and somebody asked me for Smash Mouth. And I had never played it. I'd heard it on the radio a dozen thousand times. But I thought for a minute, I found the chords, and we started in, and the whole bar was singing along. Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me, like we'd done it 1,000 times. It was fantastic.
But it was your first
time ever playing it live, and the crowd sang along, and we got it. We nailed it first try. So
it's a group effort. I love
but
it.
Yeah,
love it. All right, so carry on.
Yeah.
Carry on with the pedals.
It's called the precision drive. I don't want to move the camera around and try to do 3 things at once here, but that's does that. I've got a couple things I use to kind of, I guess, thicken sounds up. So if I start by knocking my computer mouse off the desk, if I start with something like this and hit this gold guy over here and turn that down just a little bit there. So it's all just, different paint colors on the palette. I mean, I guess the last one I can show you is a fuzz pedal, which gives me sort of a old school Black Sabbath sound. Really gnarly fuzzy thing. And that's mostly the pedal with the pedal off. So it can go from subtleties to wildly changing your sound. So
that's amazing. And does it ever feel like cheating?
No, not at all.
Like, does it ever feel like
it's just cheating? I don't know. Cheating's not the word for it. It's just augmenting, I guess. It's just getting you closer to the sound in your head.
That's fair. That's cool.
I think Ashley liked that
That's cool.
Black Sabbath.
I love it. I love it. Hey, if anybody online has questions for Bobby and talking music or music mixing or music production, or we're going to get into songwriting here in just a second, please put those in through the chat. We'll see them. We've got chat stuff in front of us and we can see your questions. So if you got anything, feel free to put them up there and we'll get to them.
And we can go super nerdy, super technical, or we can keep it high. It's high level. It's whatever whoever asks the question wants. So
yeah,
I will happily nerd out.
Ashley goes, play your favorite riff of all time ever.
Oh man,
here we go.
Yeah. So I'm of the opinion that the sexiest and best guitar riff of all time is a Led Zeppelin one, which I know Ashley will appreciate. You need cooling, baby, I'm not fooling. Kind of hard to sing and play it at the same time on the electric.
It's amazing.
The other favorite, I have to grab a different guitar really quick, but also a Led Zeppelin song.
Those guys were amazing. Keep the questions coming. We can go really nerdy if anybody wants to talk technical stuff too.
If you were saying stuff, I couldn't hear you.
I know. I did that on purpose.
Okay. Yeah. So this particular guitar is in a non-standard tuning. There's a standardized tuning for guitars that maybe 80% of people use. That's what you learn on. Let me back this off really quick so you can hear what it's doing. It's got a unique tuning where it's almost like a sitar open droney sort of thing. And that lends itself to your fingers making chords either more easy or more difficult depending on what you're trying to do. But there's less movement involved for certain chords to make those happen. So it kind of simplifies things in some ways. And the other Led Zeppelin riff. Kind of makes chords for you.
I love it. I love it. Hey, we've got a question.
Yeah.
Do you ever create music 100% digitally? So just Just on your computer.
So I'm going to assume the actual root of that question is, well, it's Jason, right? Yeah. I'm interpreting that as without an actual instrument, and it's just in the computer, all synthetic instruments, I guess, electronic instruments. I'm going to assume that's what he's asking. And the answer to that is no.
I think that's right.
There's pretty much always a guitar involved in what I do. I've done one piece that was entirely piano, but that wasn't me actually recording it. Well, I was recording it. I had somebody else in here playing and singing piano. There was no guitar involved. I am not, again, a great piano player. But everything I write is always rooted in a guitar. There will be other things that will come up around that. I can bring in string sections and pianos and organs. And I've got a whole suite of software that can help me create these sort of sounds without having to hire, rent, or buy those sorts of equipment and people. So. But typically speaking, it's the core of my music is a guitar and my voice, and then drums and bass, and then everything else is just kind of sprinkling on top of that.
Do you have a drum kit in there too? Or are you?
Yes, and. So in the closet over here, I have a digital drum kit that plugs into my computer, and that drives a piece of software that actually plays drum samples. They were originally played by a human being and recorded, and then I am replaying them effectively with a drum kit.
Yep.
And the software for that has gotten incredible over the last few years. On top of that, where did I put it? Oh, there it is.
I know that feeling. Where is it?
See, this is it is not neat and tidy in here. I work in here. This is it's called a launch pad, and you can use for a myriad of things. I really don't touch more than maybe 20% of its functionality. But you can actually do finger drums with this sort of thing. This is how I do drums most of the time, is I can just play sort of thing. And again, that drives the same software that the drum kit drives. So that's how I do most of my drum recordings. Gets me the sounds I want.
How often do you write? How often do you get to sit down and write and compose music?
So outside of this whole isolation, quarantine, social distancing thing, I try to get in here at least twice a week to do my own thing. Throughout the course of the week, I'm either working nights or I'm hanging out with my wife or I'm working on other people's music, either with them here or they've sent me files to work on. So for my own stuff, I try to get in here at least twice a week.
How many songs are you sitting at right now?
So I've been trying to spend this isolation period working on my songwriting, specifically my lyric writing. I've never struggled with writing instrumentation. That's, for whatever reason, always come really naturally to me. I really didn't start singing, consider myself a singer until about 8 years ago. So that kind of necessitated songwriting. So I've been working on that, and I've been creating a lot of songs. Most of them I've thrown away, or I'm just not releasing. You know, you do a lot of things. I think I heard it was a photographer actually talking about it. Do you know who Peter McKinnon is? He's a YouTuber.
I do. Yeah, he's a magician also.
Yes, he is. He said in an earlier video, maybe 3 years ago, how do you take a good photo? You take 100 really bad photos. And so I've been just kind of grinding through 100 bad songs and just trying to work on getting more confident in what I'm writing and more comfortable with that process. Because I can crank out instrumentals until I'm blue in the face. I can do 3 in a day without really trying. Whether they're good or not, that's a different thing. Cranking out words to those songs, that's been my current struggle and what I'm working towards.
Do you have a favorite of your own work?
I do. I have a song I put out on an EP in 2013 or 14 called Change of Course. It's a somber ballad I wrote about a breakup I was going through about a year prior to that. And it started originally as just my guitar and a voice, and that's what's on the recording. I am working on a full instrumentation of that with drums, bass. There's a string section, a violin section that comes in later, and piano throughout. It's a much more lush production. But it's one of those songs that I was in my head when I did it originally as just my voice and a guitar. I could hear the other elements kind of in my imagination. So that's existed the whole time. I've been kind of chipping away at it slowly but surely.
Would you play it for us?
Yeah, sure. It's a longer song, just FYI. But
I think we have time. None of us are going anywhere.
All the time in the world, man. Okay.
Hey, everybody. While he gets set up to do that, remember, if you have questions and stuff, we can see them in the chat. We'll get to them. Keep them coming.
No, that's not it. Where did my voice go? There we go. Let me get tuned up here. Black water surrounds me now. I push and pull with the rolling wave. I throw my arms against the tide, all for a ship I cannot save. Someone rescue me. I'm already dead. Adrift and thrown overboard by the hand that once held mine. As we sail, loosen your grip. It was all just a matter of time. Someone rescue me. I've been left for dead, and I feel this weight upon my chest. Scramble my bearings, my wings regress. Trapped by silence, restrained and confined by my own device, my course realigned. I throw my sails into the wind, accelerating my damnation. I fool myself into thinking that I could control my destination. Death rescue me from the sea of gray, and I feel this weight upon my chest. Scramble my bearings, my wings regress. Trapped by silence, restrained and confined by my own device, my course realigned. Wasted effort and time for night. From the very moment we began this new direction to flee from the storm was not part of the plan. Black water surrounds me now. I push and pull with the rolling wave. But you can rescue me, 'cause I'm already dead, and I feel this weight upon we go.
I love it.
Thank you.
I love it. Thank you. So right as you were starting that song, a question came up.
Yeah.
Do you do all of that production work in this room, in this studio?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I sure do. So I've got recording software in here. I've got what's called an interface. I don't think I can reach the camera down here, but that's where I get it plugs into. It's a big old USB box with a whole bunch of microphone and instrument inputs. So I plug everything into that. There's 8 inputs on there, and that funnels all the sound into my computer. It does all the processing for that, and then spits it out to my 2 speakers here and the headphones.
Mm-hmm. That's sweet.
And
so I wanna...
for really quick, for a workflow thing, because it has 8 inputs, I'm not tracking 8 things at a time usually. Like I can't fit an acoustic drum kit in here and put mics on all the different things. So what I've actually done is use it as a workflow hack. So everything is plugged in at all times. I don't have to reach around and plug things in and turn things up. Everything is ready to go at all times. I just have to turn it on.
That's awesome. I love those kinds of efficiencies in work. I want to talk creative process just for a second. Like, yeah. So that's a song that you wrote, and you've got several songs that you've written and released and stuff. What is there's an element of vulnerability in that, and an element of risk taking when you put out your own work like that. You know, it's so easy to be a cover band. You know,
yeah, it really is.
And in many cases, I think that's desired. You know, the Crown wants you to play familiar songs for people, so that they stick around and they sing along and they have a good time and they buy another drink and all that kind of good stuff. But really, I think both you and I understand, and artists in general will understand that it's easy to be that cover band, whatever medium of art you're working in. You know, as a magician or as a painter, even, or musicians, I think especially can fall into this, where they're simply playing other people's music. What's the process to, well, maybe not the process, but, you know, let's talk about bravery as an artist for a second, I guess.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah,
like,
I'm trying to think of how to approach that.
When you put your heart into a song, and you put a certain element of yourself into a piece, that's different than picking up even the greatest love song of all time, or whatever that is, that was written by somebody else, and singing that. They're totally different, right?
Absolutely.
Do your hands shake?
So the big thing for me is, if I'm playing my own music, in all honesty, as nice as it is to receive positive feedback on something I've written and created and performed for somebody, I'm usually doing it for myself. And then the rest of that is just kind of a happy accident. So that particular song, I really did write for myself. I didn't particularly care what other people might think, like, oh, this is, you know, I tried to make it relatable. Like there's a balance there, but it's, yeah, that one was for me. And a lot of the songs I do are for me. I have one exception to that's coming to my mind, which I can play later. But yeah, I do it for myself, and then everything else is a happy accident. And then in performing covers too, I still think you can do more as a cover band or a cover artist than just going through the motions and playing the song. I think there's an element of infusing yourself into it, adding your own twists to it, of course, which can be either clever, like, oh, that's an interesting way to play that song. I had it. There was a Beatles song, the Get By With a Little Help with My Friends. The Beatles version and the Jim Croce version, wildly different. So I think little different takes on those songs can help, and just kind of putting yourself in the shoes of the original songwriter can help make those cover songs. Yes, they're great. Hey, I know this song, I can sing along to it, but it adds another element to it. So
yeah. My 3-year-old is yelling at me from a different room.
Dad life, man.
Dad life. Yeah.
So I guess bravery was the key word there, and it doesn't feel brave to me. I don't know what word I would use to describe it, but it's, I guess, more of just a letting go than a bravery. Like, it's not a charging ahead, I'm going to do this. It's a, if they don't like it, I'm okay with that. I like it kind of thing.
Is it a cathartic thing for you?
Oh,
Like
for
get it out
sure.
of your head, get it out of your heart for a minute?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it depends on the song. Like that one in particular, I'm over the past. That was an old breakup. I'm happily married, but at the same time, it was a piece of my past, and I recognize that and respect it. And taking myself back to that, just as kind of, I guess, a self reminder of that period of time, so I don't forget, that sort of thing. So definitely cathartic.
So speaking about like things from the past or whatever, can we have a tour of your tattoos?
Yeah. So I'm wearing long sleeves today, but so let's see. First one, if I can get it, I'll have to drop down here. First one was an ohm there. That was my very first tattoo. And that was really just kind of the girl I was dating at the time. We were in a long distance relationship. She was out in Minnesota, and she texted me one day. She said, "Hey, I got a tattoo." And I said, "Well, I can't be the only one here without a tattoo." So I called up. It was Skibo's at the time down on the south side of town, and booked an appointment. And it was kind of, okay, well, what do you want? Oh, I hadn't thought of that. So I kind of hemmed and hawed and thought about it. And I was, like any 19-year-old going through the religious and spiritual search for truth. And that one at the time resonated with me. I wouldn't say it's an embarrassing tattoo, but it's a first tattoo. So
Sure.
Past that, a lot of it, I've got some music notes. There's more music up on this shoulder. I can get part of it down here. But that whole thing right here, that's a guitar, creeps up to the top there. I've got some Latin for "I'm Not What I Once Was." I'm a fan of the movie Donnie Darko, so I've got Frank the Bunny, not once, but twice, because I was a dumb young 20-something-year-old. I've got my compass. I've got some things from various bands and artists that have influenced me. So this, if I can get it at the right orientation, that's Steve Vai. He's a guitarist, virtuoso, VAI. And right around there is my Silver Surfer. There's an artist named Joe Satriani who released an album called Surfing with the Alien back in 86 or 84, somewhere around there. And it had the Silver Surfer poking out of it. So I have that. That's the Devin Townsend project. He's kind of an underground Canadian metal musician. That's for Tool and A Perfect Circle, who are big influences on me. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, lots of them. 14, I think.
Nice.
Oh, and I've got one on the back of my calf. I won't show that, but it's
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a logo from, if you look up Ravenswood, it's a wine vineyard out of Sonoma Valley in Northern California. I got that tattoo a week before my wedding. My wife and I were going to go honeymoon in Napa Valley. This is October of 2017. And we had to cancel all of our plans because that entire area was on fire that year. But I got that tattoo because if you go to their vineyard and you have a tattoo of their logo, which is a very cool logo, I don't regret this one, you get free tastings for life. And so if you're a wine guy, that's pretty awesome.
What a great thing.
Right? So I have to go back to Napa now to put the tattoo to use.
Yep. Instead, on your honeymoon, you ended up in San Francisco, and you saw a friend of mine perform while you guys were out there, right?
I did, man. He was so fun. What was his name?
David Clavins. David Gerard.
David Gerard. Yeah. No, he was fantastic. And I did name drop you when he was, meeting everybody after the show. Oh, you're Dan's friend.
Yeah, I texted him before you guys went out there, and I was like, keep an eye out for these guys. They're newlyweds, and they're on their honeymoon, and they're going to go to your show.
Yeah, so. No, it was great. It was great. Put on a great show.
Yeah. Hey, should we do a piece of magic?
Yeah, let's do it. Do you need anything from me?
Let's see. I need from you, give me a 2-digit number.
Any 2-digit number.
Something less than 50.
Okay. Say it out loud.
Sure.
17.
17. Okay. Is there any reason why you ended up at 17? Like, that's always the way that we end up at things is always kind of weird.
I don't know. It's a prime number, so I guess it's interesting in that way. But there's lots of prime numbers.
Yeah.
I don't know. Nothing specific.
You taught me how to solve a Rubik's Cube. That was one of the first times that you and I had a really weird nerdy conversation. It was we were standing in the library where you work.
Yeah.
We're going to get to that here in a second. And you, I brought in a Rubik's Cube, and we like talked about how to solve these things.
Now, I don't know if she was just joking, but I believe your wife was like, "Oh, that's why you wanted to go to the library so bad."
There was maybe
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know if you saw this. I don't know if you've seen this back here, but I've had this envelope back here on the shelf for a while now.
Okay.
And it's, well, I just hung it up before we started the thing. Actually, I didn't hang it up there like a year ago or something.
Okay.
I hung it up like this morning.
Okay.
Because I do a lot of shows in this venue, or not in this venue. It is my venue.
It is a venue now, yeah.
So, and also, I know that you have a deck of cards at your desk. We talked about that beforehand.
I do, yeah.
Somewhere there.
I got it.
And you picked 17.
Mm-hmm.
Would you count down to the 17th card? So before you do that, I just want to show you that in my envelope here, I'm going to just unseal this. In my envelope here, I've got a business card, and on the business card, I wrote up the number that I was pretty sure that you were going to go with. And it's always interesting to find out what people, like if it works. I'm always curious if it's going to work. So go down in your deck. Yeah, go down to the 17th card. And by the way, just before you kind of get to that, I've got a deck of cards here too. Okay?
Okay, so this is card number 17.
All right, what is that card? Because in my deck, I've got one card backwards here.
Okay. So it's the 5 of hearts.
The 5 of hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and so in my deck here, and by the way, we didn't set this up before we started this.
No, at best I said, "Oh, hey Dan, if you need some audience participation, I have a deck of cards laying around."
Yeah, right. And you can see that those are all facing you. Mm-hmm. And there's one card in here that it's way down here at the end that I turned backwards.
Man, every time with that. Not that specific trick. You get me every time, man. I need to come see one of your shows in person.
Yeah.
When I'm not gigging.
That's the hard part about working hard, though, is
know,
like it is hard because there are nights when I've wanted to go out and see you, mm-hmm. and I just can't. Yeah. You know.
No, I totally get it.
You know, because I've got my own gig that I have to take care of, mm-hmm. and so. Hi, everybody. Dan Jasperson here with Bobby Phillipps. If you have questions for Bobby or for me, really, I guess, but this is mostly about music and music production and songwriting and creativity. And I think it's funny that both of us had a cup of tea during this. And in the post that we put out on Facebook beforehand, we talked about how we like our coffee.
Mm-hmm. How do you like your coffee?
I'm like straight black, like just make it. Because I'm up early in the morning. I'm up at like 5 in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I lost you there for a sec.
And am I there?
You are now, yeah. You're up at 5 in the morning.
Okay, good. I'm up at 5 in the morning. I just like wake up and I hit the coffee machine. Like I get it ready the night before, and then as soon as it's done percolating, I'm like, no sugar, no anything. And yeah, because like I do a lot of creative work first thing in the morning because like my kids are still sleeping, my wife is still sleeping. It's just time for me to do my thing. And so sometimes that's reading, sometimes it's writing, sometimes it's actual rehearsing for shows and things. And but it's all about speed. It's just like straight black coffee. Give it to me in a big mug. And what about you?
I take it all the ways. So if I'm trying to relax and enjoy the cup of coffee, wake up and, it's still, because I try to get up about 5 or 6 in the morning, usually head to the gym too, but that's been on hiatus as well. But after I would come back from the gym, or if I'm just getting up, French press is my go-to. And if I'm just enjoying it, some hazelnut creamer, and I just sit back and, maybe do some reading or noodle around on a guitar. I'm similar. Early morning is prime time for me to do some heavy thinking and creativity. curiously, on the flip side, late evening is actually good for just kind of free flow sort of thing. So my brain's tired. I'm shutting down and winding down. If I'm not hanging out with my wife, I can just kind of have these happy accidents of creative discovery. And sometimes those are good. But if I'm doing something that requires a lot of brain power, it's early morning for that.
Do those happy accidents, do you just kind of wander into the studio here and like sit down, you pick up an instrument, and you just kind of see what happens?
Yeah, it'll be kind of idle too. So this is my main computer that we're on right now. It's my recording computer, and I have my recording software up pretty much all the time, ready to capture an idea if I'm in here. But otherwise, I'll put something on YouTube or Netflix and just kind of kick back and way back here and just kind of see where my hands wander until I find something interesting. It's really about shutting the brain off, and my hands will wander to something they wouldn't normally do automatically. So kind of breaking habits and cycles.
So we have a suggestion that we should book a show together.
Yeah. So we did one about,
what
was that 5 years ago, 6 years ago, somewhere in there.
It's got to be at least that now.
Yeah. It was when the floods were happening in Colorado. So Jason, we did a joint show at does Jason live here in Cheyenne, or is he?
No, he's in Minnesota.
Okay. We have a little cafe here called the Paramount Cafe. And when I say little, it's pretty small. But it's a great place. The owners are fantastic. Next time you're in town, please do check it out. We did a joint show there as a fundraiser, relief.
Yep, it was a relief fundraiser. We had major flooding in Colorado about an hour south of us. Lost the major road that went up from Loveland to Estes Park, basically, that canyon road, and that was all flooded out and everything. And that event comes up in my Facebook memories, once a year or whatever. It'll come around, and it's like, oh yeah, I remember doing that show.
That was fun. Yeah, he was on once. There's a kind of a divided area off to the side of this cafe. You were on one side doing magic, and then there was a divider between us. I was up on the stage doing some music. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was like it was before I was dating my wife, so that was about 7 years ago now, actually.
Yeah,
a while ago.
Yeah.
So Tommy, it's Maris or Maris. I've never actually talked to him in person. He said, hey, look at all that music gear. So I'm actually mixing his band's album song by song right now. He's based in the Salt Lake area, and his singer is based out in California. I forget exactly where. Singer and guitarist, and they've got other bandmates scattered throughout. So they're an internet band, effectively, though, which is really cool. And they record files and send them back and forth. So like, hey, here's my drum parts, play your parts to that. Hey, here's my guitar parts, play along to that. And then once they get all these different parts, Maris, got it. And once they get all that, they send all that to me. And then, so he's in Orange County, the singer is. They send it all to me, and then my job is to put all that together and make it into one cohesive song. Make the parts that want to shine, make the vocal sound good, and make it sound like it belongs on Spotify or the radio. So they just sent me another song, and it's got 55 individual tracks on it that I have to sculpt together. Maris. Got it. So yeah, they just sent me that this morning. I just started working on it before we hopped on the chat here. So
that's amazing. Like, just thinking about the internet as a garage, where like before all of the internet, kids were meeting in the garage and just hammering out songs and writing things and coming up with stuff.
Yep.
That's the Nirvana age of things and prior. And now it's like, you said these guys are dispersed all over the country, and they're sending you files, 50 plus files from every angle, and your job is to make them all work together, put them together, and sounds like you're doing a good job. Tommy likes your work. So.
He really does. I'm really grateful and thankful to be mixing their stuff. It's great music too. I really enjoy it, so that helps too.
I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, mixing us. So one song is already out. It's called Fallen. The name of the band is West of House. And you can find them on Spotify and iTunes and Amazon. And their first single is called Fallen. That came out 2 months ago now, I think. And they've got the next one coming out. What's the name of it? Yesterdays is the name of the song. That one's coming out May 1st, 2 weeks from today.
That's awesome.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So great band, great sounding music. That makes it super fun. They arrange the parts really well. It's not like I'm trying to make this cacophony of sounds work together. They really all serve a piece of the puzzle in the song.
Yeah.
March 15th. So a month ago. Yeah. Was when the first one came out.
That's cool. Congrats, Tommy and gang and Bobby for doing the work on that. That's cool. It's a weird, I mean, isn't that interesting how the technology has influenced the arts like that?
Oh,
that
absolutely.
We can, you know, you and I are in the same town right now, but that doesn't really matter. You know, the internet volleys remind me of the Postal Service.
I don't know if he's talking about the band or the actual Postal Service.
Clarification on that one. Is it the band called the Postal Service?
I love the Postal Service. Thanks, Tommy.
You know, but like for me as a magician, I routinely shoot videos and send them to a couple friends of mine in different parts of the country. Mm-hmm. And you know, these are we're swapping secrets and we're talking magic, and there's stuff behind the scenes, and you know, I have friends in California and Pennsylvania and New York, and we swap notes like that. Mm-hmm. And then I've got gigs. Like I did a gig last weekend over Zoom for a New York City based client of mine. And it was amazing.
Awesome.
You know,
that's incredible.
And on that call, we had a guy from Russia. We had a guy from Seattle. We had a guy from, I think, Vancouver. A couple from New York. I'm here in Mountain Time Zone in Wyoming, mm-hmm. And we all had a good time. And it's been amazing during this quarantine to kind of pivot and adapt to, you know, the situation that we're in. And I think creatively, like if you're not prepared to pivot like that, I mean, just I hate to put it this way, but like you're not going to make it. Like,
no, you're absolutely not.
It's harsh. It's so harsh when I say it like that, but I think it's true that if you're not ready to disrupt and to be part of that disruption, you will be disrupted, mm-hmm. and you will not be performing
as successful as you might want to be. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The internet thing does remind me. So maybe 4 years ago now, myself and some internet buddies quite literally scattered to the winds on the continental US. We recorded and did a video for a cover of Pink Floyd's song Time off the Dark Side of the Moon album. Mm-hmm. So I was here in Cheyenne, and I'm going to get some of this wrong because it's been about 4 years, but I was here in Cheyenne. The bassist, guy named Kyle, he's up in Michigan, I think outside of Detroit. And then I believe the drummer was based in New Jersey. The female backing vocalist was based in maybe somewhere along the East Coast, like Pennsylvania. And then the keyboard player, I think, was Southwest, maybe New Mexico. I might have that all wrong, but I remember we were all scattered to the winds in the continental U.S., and we ended up with I think a cover we're pretty proud of the song Time by Pink Floyd. So if you search Bobby Phillipps with 2 P's at the end, Phillipps, Pink Floyd Time, you can find that on YouTube. We're really proud of that. But yeah, just sending files back and forth, using Dropbox to sync everything up. It's great.
Yeah. I think we have time for like one more good song. You want to do one more good one for us to wrap us up?
Yeah, let me see if I remember the words here.
We'll go dealer's choice on this one. We'll see whatever you want.
Ooh,
Is it a problem when you have like 1,000 songs in your head trying to pick something?
Okay, so yes and no. I'll tell this story, and maybe I'll think of a song while I'm telling the story. So I was playing the back courtyard of the. Let me back up. I don't bring a set list to my shows typically unless there's a time crunch. Like I've got an hour or 45 minutes set, then I need to like bang through the songs and go. But if I'm playing a 3 to 5 hour set, I typically don't bring a set list. I just kind of roll off the top of my head and feel out the crowd. So I was playing at the Suite in their back patio in the summer, and it was a dead night. There was 2 girls and their mother. I say girls, they were in their early 20s, 2 women and their mother. And it was very mellow. It was very quiet. So I was playing a lot of very mellow, very soft, just background music, basically. And I'm usually thinking about 5 songs ahead. Okay, while I'm playing this one, I'm going to play that one, and that's going to go into this one, and I can do that one. And halfway through one song, maybe 30 minutes into my night, a wedding party drops off, and they are ready to party. So bride, groom, all the, the groomsmen and bridesmaids and friends and family, there's maybe 50 people that just drop into this patio from various cars, and they're ready to go. And so I immediately stopped, pivoted, and ramped the show up from there. So I don't bring a set list so I can stop on a dime like that.
I love that. I love that. And it's like this, the inner workings of the head as you're like performing. I totally understand that. Like I've had to, sometimes when I'm performing, I've got like 2 or 3 people. I'm just doing close-up magic for 2 or 3 people. And suddenly there's like 10 people and then 15. And the tricks change. The things that you can do for 2 people is totally different than it won't work for 10 people or 15 people. You have to kind of take a step back, get a little bit taller, and do magic that's more like up here so people can see it than, down here at our belly buttons and people can't see stuff.
So when you've got 4 people having dinner and your background music, sing along songs like 500 Miles by the Proclaimers. I would walk 500. That one doesn't really work with 4 people.
Yeah.
And so, you get, I guess in my world, in the cover world, you get more sing-songy, more dancey, and the more people you got. And you read that crowd too. If it's, if the crowd is this old, you play stuff from like the 70s and 80s. If it's a younger crowd, you're playing more modern stuff. So it's all just kind of, you got to think fast, and I'm sure you got to do the same. So I still haven't thought of a song. Nope, got one. Okay.
There we go.
Some people call me the space cowboy. Yeah. Some call me the Gates of Love. Some people call me Maurice. I speak of the cockatoos of love. People talking about me, baby. Oh yeah. Say I'm doing you wrong, doing you wrong. Don't you worry, baby, don't worry, mama. 'Cause I'm right here, right here, right here, right here at home. 'Cause I'm a pigger, I'm a critter, I'm a lover, and I'm a sinner. I play my music in the sun. I'm a joker, I'm a smoker, I'm a midnight toker. Sure don't want to hurt no one. Ooh. Ooh. You're the cutest thing that I ever did see. I really love your peaches, wanna shake your trees. Lovey-dovey, lovey-dovey, lovey-dovey all the time. Oh, baby, I sure show you good time. 'Cause I'm a pigger, I'm a critter, I'm a lover, and I'm a sinner. I play my music in the sun. I'm a joker, I'm a smoker, I'm a midnight toker. I get my loving on the run. Ooh. Ooh. Shorty, you're my angel, you're my darling baby. Girl, you're my friend when I'm in need. Wrong song. People talking about me, baby. Oh yeah. Say I'm doing you wrong, doing you wrong. Don't you worry, baby, don't worry, my love. 'cause I'm right here, right here, right here, right here at home. Oh, you're the cutest thing that I ever did see. I really love your peaches, wanna shake your trees. Lovey-dovey, lovey-dovey, lovey-dovey all the time. Ooh, baby, I should show you good time. I'm a picker, I'm a grinner, I'm a lover, and I'm a sinner. I play my music in the sun. I'm a joker, I'm a smoker, I'm a midnight toker. I sure don't want to hurt no one. Ooh. Ooh.
I love it. I love it. You know, I think there are some songs that are so ingrained in our culture that like, probably 99% of us know the lyrics to that song and we could sing along. Like the whole thing.
So
Not
I
even
use that as a crowd grabber. Every once in a while at the Crown, and this is just the nature of the beast, I'm still background music. And there's a lot of people there, and some of them are singing along. Some people are, dancing along and, bobbing their heads, and other people are having conversations. And I'm not necessarily trying to interrupt those conversations. But when you get to that first woo woo part, if I don't hear more than a third of the room, I stop, address it. I'm like, that sucked. Where were you guys?
You guys have lines. Pay attention.
Yeah, and it's not so much me addressing it; it's the stop that catches everyone because they're like, "What? He stopped playing." So that gets their attention, and that gets people a little bit more engaged. And it's my little secret weapon, crowd grabber. So
fun. I love it. So let's wrap up.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you. I think you're mostly a self-taught musician. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Do you have any advice for a young person who's looking to get into music, who just wants to, like, they might have a guitar, they want to learn how to play guitar or piano or any other instrument for that matter. They want to get into songwriting.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us about that.
Yeah, my biggest thing for an absolute beginner, two things. One, YouTube is an incredible resource for that sort of thing. So you can simply search YouTube for, let's say, Wonderwall guitar lesson, and you'll get a bajillion results. Most of them will be filtered by the YouTube algorithm. You'll find the good ones. In fact, I would recommend a guy, Marty's Songs, and there's a Z after Marty, MartyZSongs. I think that's how it's spelled. Fantastic YouTube teacher. So piggybacking off that, I would say learn the songs you love within reason. A beginner is not going to be able to play the most complicated music. I do recommend starting simple, but try to learn the songs that you love, the songs that made you want to pick up an instrument in the first place. For me, that was Stevie Ray Vaughan was a big influence, and then all the 70s classic rock my parents listened to, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, The Who, that sort of thing. So learn those songs, and then, eventually you'll start to build a musical vocabulary, as it were. So you'll start borrowing little musical lines, be it on a piano or a guitar or whatever, and you'll kind of ingratiate those into your vocabulary. The bassist Victor Wooten has a really good way of putting it. He says, when you learn to speak, whatever the native language is, so we'll say English, when you're a very young child, you're not really forming your own sentences. You're borrowing from the people around you, your parents, maybe older siblings or other relatives, and you're just copying. And you're basically covering the language as if it were a cover song. And as you grow and start to build that vocabulary, you start to take these little licks, these little phrases, and string them together into your own thoughts. And so that's kind of how at least how I built it. And I love that analogy.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. Everybody watching, thanks so much for tuning in. Bobby Phillipps, musician, guitarist, songwriter, producer, mixer,
I have a lot
librarian.
of we got to do, if not me, somebody has to interview you in this style, because I'd love to see this turned so that somebody else is interviewing you.
I'd be happy to. I think it's fun. and yeah, so what I'm doing is I'm building a series. We're all quarantined. We're all stuck at home. We all have, I was talking to my wife last night about like all of our entertainment, all of our normal entertainment options right now are coming through, it's stuff like Netflix or Amazon Prime, watching on our TV, or through things like Facebook. So much of our entertainment right now is coming through the social media. And I decided that I want to keep my social feed as positive and helpful and interesting and whatever as I can, just to keep it positive, because there's a lot of crap out there too, and I don't want to dip into that.
Sure.
So coming up next week on these interviews, I've got next is Tiffany Erickson. She is the artistic director for the Ballet Wyoming. Nice. So she's a dancer, she's a choreographer, she's just brilliant when it comes in that arena of dance. And so you'll find that there's not necessarily a certain type of person that I'm talking to. What I'm trying to do is find people who are deep down in the trenches of this type of work and bring them up for people to see, Tiffany is not the one who's going to be writing the books and doing the master classes on ballet and everything that you can watch. But man, she's busy, and she's actually in the middle of working on Ballet Wyoming's next show, which is scheduled but in danger of not making it because of all of this. Right. So we'll talk about that next week. And then after Tiffany, I've got Juan Coronado, who is the chef at the Metropolitan downtown. He's not officially working for them right now, but most people would recognize him as the chef there. And so late next week, we're going to talk food. We're going to talk about like how to build a menu and how to make good food, and like let's do some cooking tips. And
I'm hungry now, man.
Stuff.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I love it. So I'm actively working on putting together these types of interviews and hopefully putting interesting, good, fun content into people's Facebook streams.
I think you're doing a great job, man. The interview you had with Reed last week was awesome. I don't know if he's watching right now, but it was good to see him too. Yeah,
Reed was fun. The last week, was that last week? No, earlier this week.
Yeah, it was. It was Tuesday.
Calendars don't matter.
I know. Every day is Sunday.
Calendars don't matter anymore. But earlier this week, I had Reed Barrett on, who's a fighter pilot. He's in fighter pilot training for the U.S. Air Force. He's also a magician, and he's a good friend of ours, both of us. And, so it was fun to chat with him. That replay is available on my feed if anybody wants to go in and grab that and listen to two guys talk about fighter pilot training and stuff. So, cool. Bobby, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I appreciate it. I hope everybody had a good time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I hope everybody had a good time. Thanks for bringing your questions. It was super fun to answer them and perform for you guys. So appreciate it, man.
Fun. Have a good evening.
You too, man.
Good night, everybody.